Assalamu alaikum, namaste, adab, very good afternoon from Beaver Studio UK. This is Imtiaz Patel Vaidawala here. And I'm again very privileged, honored, and very happy to have a young dynamic guest, Nadirah Talati. And when I was going through her biodata, pretty impressive, pretty moving, pretty inspiring. Nadirah is a optometrist. You have to excuse my pronunciations because English is not my first language, but I'll try my level best. With over a decade of professional experience, currently working as a locum while leading humanitarian initiatives and projects close to her heart. As project lead for dignity projects, what they call under Jigsaw Charity UK, Nadirah is playing an active role in delivering essential women's health support to vulnerable communities across Lebanon, Syria, and Morocco. Working fully volunteer-run organizations, Nadirah is very passionate about combining healthcare, compassion, and grassroots action to create meaningful impact for those most in need, alongside empowering our local community. And that's quite striking introductions, and I like that word which she has provided me in her biodata: empowering community and working with the vulnerable people. Nadirah bin, salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
And welcome to my show.
Thank you.
How was your Ramadan? How was your Eid? Did you do anything special? Just tell us briefly about those Ramadan and Eid.
So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's a lot easier now because it's a lot shorter, isn't it? The last couple of weeks were a bit tough, just with everything that's been going on, sort of in Lebanon, and yeah, it's just been a bit of a different Ramadan, but alhamdulillah, we're very fortunate, and Eid was really nice. It's always nice to see our family and get together. But yeah, it was a good Ramadan.
And from young person's point of view, do you think that Eid still kind of reminds us as the kind of notion of family spirit, notion of friendship, notion of community spirit, or do you think that kind of social structure is getting a bit weak?
For myself personally, I don't think it has. We are a very close family. We have a very sort of tight-knit family. We see each other quite a lot anyway, without it being Eid. But I think, yeah, people's lives are probably a little bit busier than they probably were before. But we kind of make sure that we make that effort to see each other. And Eid's always nice to catch up with people that you might not have usually caught up with. So yeah.
Nice one. Nadirah, you were born in Bolton.
That's right.
And you have built a career in optometry. Is that the right way to pronounce?
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
Oh, well, at least I got one word sorted.
That's right.
Can you tell us about your journey into the profession and what first inspired you to pursue healthcare? Because we are talking about a quite sensitive, quite challenging professional career and professional path.
Yeah, so it goes back quite a while actually. So when we had to do our work experience, I think it was in year 10, so I was about 15 years old. I put my name down to do it at Boots, and my cousin was actually working at the opticians at the time. So she said to me, instead of just doing it just on the shop floor and everything, why don't you do a week with us at the opticians, which I did, and I really enjoyed it. And then she ended up leaving, and then I got her job, and then it started from there. And I think I always wanted a profession where I would be sort of mixing with people and helping people, but also just like a 9 to 5 job, and just a straightforward job, something where I have a little bit of that social interaction with patients, and then working in a team as well. So I actually started working in town from when I was 17, and I worked there for about 10 years at Boots Opticians, and then I left, and then I started locuming afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Right. Nice one. So, I mean, would you agree with me that, within the faith communities, and that includes, so it be Muslim community, Jewish community, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, and people who follow Buddhists, certain areas still remains pretty challenging, and we have a notion of tabooness, like, domestic violence, mental health maybe, HIV/AIDS and drugs and alcohol, and if I may use this word, sexual health, contraceptions, and public health, because I was in NHS for almost more than 28 years
Yeah.
in sexual health and contraceptions.
Yeah.
But I was trained very thoroughly by the organizations, and I had a
Yes.
passion that despite of tabooness, I think from the public health point of view, we need to accept certain challenges, and we need to raise awareness when it comes to prevention and educating people and empowering people with the information so they can make right choices. So would you agree that,
Yeah, I think in all different cultures, there's different taboos when it comes to lots of different things. And especially within the work that I do in the charity sector, we focus on women's health, and whether that is any different, all the different cultures have their own taboos. Us coming from South Asian backgrounds, we have our own taboos and certain things that we would do differently to other cultures. And I think that's why it's so important for us to have these conversations, maybe a little bit more openly than we would want to, so that we can educate and, make sure that we are aware of what's going on and look at it from a different perspective and maybe fact check things. So, yeah.
Nice one. Now, how did your path evolve from clinical practice and your background into humanitarian and charity work?
It's a bit of a long story, actually. So I've always wanted to do like charity work here and there, and you always think, I don't know how I'm going to get into it. But about 6 years ago, I met a lady who did these kind of deployments quite regularly. She's a GP from Manchester, and we were at a course and she was showing me some pictures of her time in the refugee camps, and she said, why don't you come with us? And then I think it was COVID at the time and things got delayed, and I didn't end up going with her organisation. And then in September 2021, I actually got sent an infograph, and it said Jigsaw Charity Gift of Sight. And I thought to myself, that's exactly something that I would love to do. But it was 3 weeks before they were going on that deployment. But I was just adamant that I wanted to go with them. And I spoke to, I think it was the trustee at the time, and I said, look, I'm an optometrist. I really want to come on this trip. Can I come? And he said, yeah, you can come if you can bring someone with you. So I wrote my best friend into it as well. She came with me. And then it kind of started from there. So we went out, there was 9 of us all together, 9 optometrists, and we tested, I think it was about 1,500 people over 4 days in the Palestinian camps, Syrian camps, and the local Lebanese community in Lebanon. So we did the tests and everything, and then we fitted them with the glasses. And then 6 weeks later, we went back to Lebanon and we fitted them and made sure that the vision was okay and stuff. So that was the sort of start of volunteering for Jigsaw. On the second trip, when I was there, the trustee asked me to speak to a group of women in our widows camp, because they had just started giving out what we called at the time dignity boxes, and they were asking whether these were useful for the women, and they wanted another woman to basically have these conversations in the camps, because it's quite a male-dominated charity. So I had these conversations, and then I think after the 2 trips, I really wanted to go back and, carry on with the work. But my heart wasn't in doing the eye tests. It was more helping the women.
Yeah.
And that's when everything started.
Oh, I see. So, Nadirah, being a female, and I'm asking with very positive spirit, not that I'm stereotyping or judging anybody on the gender basis, but I'm slightly curious, and I'm sure that our audience is also curious, that being a female, going away in the territory which is predominantly has a very challenging political and sectarian instability,
Definitely.
And going into the area where it becomes quite challenging as well.
Yeah.
How did you convince your mom and dad and family that you will be okay?
To be honest with you, my mum and dad are the biggest supporters of the project. They're the biggest supporters of the charity work that I do. And it's actually, my dad has encouraged me a lot to just pursue it. The first time I went with my best friend. The second time I went, I took my auntie, my friend, my cousin, her husband. And then after that, all the other trips that I did, so I went about 8 times, I either took one of my cousins, my auntie came like 4 times with me, I took my cousin and her husband, my cousin and his wife, and then my mum and dad came with me. And I think when the trip that my mum and dad took with me, they saw the impact themselves, and yeah, they've just been always really encouraging. But don't get me wrong, it has been difficult as well. And you know, people do ask you like, how do you manage? At the time, things were okay. There were safety issues here and there, but on a much smaller scale. And then once you're there, you kind of think, do you know what? The work is bigger and the need is greater, so you just get on with it. But obviously now it's quite bad over there.
Okay. You lead the Dignity Project.
That's right.
As per my research is concerned, and that is under Jigsaw Charity UK.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who may not be familiar, what exactly is the Dignity Project, and can you tell us a little bit about Jigsaw Charity UK, please?
Sure. So Jigsaw Charity was established, I think it was around 5 years ago. They're actually Birmingham based, and they're an entirely volunteer-run organisation. The main aims is to provide humanitarian aid, and we mainly work in Lebanon, Syria, Pakistan and Palestine. So my project, the Dignity Project, comes under Jigsaw, and I founded that around 4 years ago. And the main aim for that is to just basically help women with health issues, educate women, empower women, and also empower our local teams that we've also trained up. We've done lots of work with lots of different partners, whether that's in the UK or on the ground. And I think we just work a lot better with each other, and we try and aim to work with different organisations to have a bigger impact as well.
Oh, I see. So, I mean, we touched upon this, but I mean, women's health and dignity are central to any projects.
Yeah.
And especially in the area, in the geographical area,
Yes.
and the community which you are dealing with, because they brings very, I would say, a strong faith-based kind of belief, value system.
Yeah.
There are cultural issues, there are traditions as well.
Yeah.
Am I right? So, I mean, how do you make balance, and where do you get knowledge and skills to deal with your service users appropriately and accordingly?
So at the beginning of the project, there was a lot of research. I wanted to make sure that we were accurate when it came to the taboos, culturally, all the sensitivity issues around the topics that we were discussing. I needed to make sure that we got it right. And the only way that I could do that was to physically spend time myself in the refugee camps with my local team. So I had a few ladies which they were brilliant. They're like Lebanese girls, Syrian girls who I would take with me. They would sit with the women and then they would translate everything back to me. We would do thorough needs assessments. We would just make sure that if we wanted to move the project forward, what was the best way to do so? And again, I was always making sure that I spoke to people that had done either similar projects or just people that lived there. And it was making sure that I can then relay all of that information back to our local team to get them trained to a standard where they can then deliver either awareness sessions or speak to the women in need, speak to our beneficiaries. And the biggest thing for me was asking the women themselves, what is it that they need? I think with charity, sometimes we can think, right, well, I'm just going to go out there and give them this, or I'm going to go out there and do this, but not do the thorough research. So there was a couple of trips in between where I made sure that it was no distribution, it was just fact checking and it was just research. Okay. Another thing that I used a lot was a few years ago, there was an Oxfam study that had been published. I think it was about 5 years ago that was published, where they had done some research around Syrian refugee women and how they were living, their living conditions, what the main struggles and issues were. And that really inspired me to move the project forward, because I could see there was such a need to tackle women's health.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now, Nadirah, the projects operates in Lebanon, Syria and Morocco.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a volunteer, and what are the biggest challenges women face in these regions regarding to health, safety, dignity, survival?
So I'll start with Lebanon. So in Lebanon, it's quite sort of multi-layered, the issues there. So they have over 1.5 million refugees living in Lebanon, in a country which is not doing great and hasn't been doing great for the past sort of 5 years or so, for different reasons. The main challenges, I would say, would be speaking to the women and convincing them on the use of the reusable sanitary pads that we have been distributing. It was sort of, it can be quite challenging when it comes to spreading the awareness and the education, convincing. A lot of the camps have male chiefs, and convincing them that, you know, this is really important. But to be fair, a lot of the men understand, and we would think that they might not, but a lot of them want the best for their women.
Of course.
And it has been actually really nice seeing that. The usual logistics, it's always difficult, you know, making sure that you get the right thing in the right place, making sure that you've got certain team members available, making sure that you're doing right for these people, because obviously if you're fundraising and you're getting donations in, you want to make sure that the money goes the furthest and it goes to the right place.
Okay.
So it's the constant back and forth between us and the local team on the ground, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly and things like that.
So the pattern of work is more or less same in Syria and Morocco, or are they distinctly different setup altogether, or there are some common threads as well?
Yeah, so we try and run all of our sessions very similar. What we do is we get mothers in one room and we get their teenage daughters in another room. They'll both have awareness sessions and they'll both be given a dignity bag. Syria has, we only started working in Syria about a year ago, and that was after the fall of the regime, because it was easier access to get into Syria. We try and sort of make sure that the conversation is included for both mothers and daughters, so that then they feel confident when they go home to speak to each other about menstruation and their monthly cycle, and just be a little bit more open with each other. Morocco has been, over the last started Morocco in June last year. I was actually on holiday there. And
Which place?
Eureka.
Oh, Eureka, yes, beautiful.
It's so beautiful there.
Yes,
So that was just a bit of a random one. I went on holiday, and the owner of the retreat centre that I was staying at, one of my cousin's wives, explained to him that this is the project that I do. And at the time, I hadn't been out in Lebanon for a while, and I really wanted to do something in Morocco. I wasn't too sure where to start. Anyway, he took us to the local village, and there was a community centre, and the women had like a couple of sewing machines. They weren't great. And then I came up with the idea of, why don't we set up the project here? The women can sew the reusable pads themselves. We can fundraise for the fabric, and then we can come out and we can distribute. So we then set that up, and inshallah, I'm hoping to go back next month to Morocco to follow that up as well.
Wow, nice one. Nadirah, humanitarian work can be emotionally demanding,
absolutely,
and very challenging, because I also have a very strong charity background. I work with at least 4 to 5 local to global charities, and I've been to Morocco, I've been to Bangladesh, Nepal, India, you name it. What motivates you to kind of remain detached from very powerful emotional experiences and to continue with your professional touch of volunteer services? I mean, how do you make a balance?
It's been hard. I'm not going to lie. That's the biggest thing I've struggled with, and anybody that knows me knows how difficult it's been. It's been a really difficult few years managing both. At the end of the day, we're human. You see somebody else suffering or in pain, and then you come back here and, you know, you have everything at your fingertips. You lead such a privileged life. it's been really hard to strike that balance. But I think that was the nicest thing about taking my family with me.
Okay.
Because they've seen it themselves, we can then discuss it, we can offload. And all of that just motivates you and drives you to do more work. It helps you to think, when you think, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? Every time you go back, or every time you hear a story of someone who is struggling, you think, well, yeah, there's a reason why I'm doing it. It's important to do this work, and then it pushes you to continue. But that's not saying it hasn't been difficult. Okay. It has. But when you see the bigger picture, when I see the videos and the feedback, we ask for a lot of feedback, and the women are so much happier once they've received a dignity bag. It makes it all worth it.
Okay, so if you what one lesson you have learned throughout your voluntary services in these very challenging countries like Lebanon, Syria, Morocco, and dealing with vulnerable people and dealing with vulnerable women as well, what lesson have you learned, or have you picked up something lifelong learning skills from these experiences?
I think the biggest thing is we are all the same. Like, whether you are in Lebanon, Syria, here, we're just women. And it's funny because even when I spend time in the camps and like they're having discussions and they're laughing about things, we all want the same thing. We all want dignity, we all want safety, nobody wants to be in the position that they're in. And I think it's a case of coming away from these countries and appreciating what we have, and realizing that even the smallest of things can have a big impact. So if everybody just does their little bit, then we can make a bigger impact.
How can our listeners support or get involved with the work which you are doing, Nadirah? Do you have any message? Do you have any contact details? Do you recruit volunteers? If you recruit volunteers, what are the procedures, due diligences, and how people can get involved?
So there's lots of different ways.
It all sounds very worthwhile and exciting in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's lots of different ways that they can get involved. Fundraising is a big one. They can check our website. We can put the details on, if that's okay. They can email myself. We also ask for volunteers who might be able to help us sew the reusable pads. I mean, everybody probably has their own skill set, and things like people that are good on social media or anything like that. If they can contact us through the website, that would be great.
Nice one. We are coming towards the end of our conversations. I mean, I often say this in every interview, that when the guest comes, I thought this is just going to be the first and last within this context.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many other informations and questions I have got. So I'm sure they will be inviting you for part 2 as well.
Yeah, that'll be
because
really
I was
good.
going to ask you about some of the stories you may have, some of the emotional moment you have got. How do you feel about your biggest achievement? But because of the time constraint, let's keep those questions for part 2, and I'm sure that you will have some interesting information. But let's round up with our youth's favorite segment, which is called the rapid fire.
Okay.
So I got about 6-7 questions.
Right.
No lectures, no big answers, no explanations, no clarifications. just to the point. Yes and no, and 1 or 2 words comes to your mind.
Okay.
Yeah? Are you ready with that?
Yep. Let's do it.
Nadirah, who is powerful, man or woman?
Both in their own ways.
That's a very diplomatic answer.
Yeah, because you'll get too much backlash otherwise.
You're playing safe there.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I have to because it's going on the internet.
Okay, fine. Who is very close to your heart, mom or dad?
Both, but obviously, no, both. Mom, I would say.
Okay. Oh, dad, watch out.
I know,
Watch out, dad.
It's okay. I said loads of things about my dad at the beginning, so it's fine. That's equaled out as well.
Okay, that's a nice one. Definition of youth, from your perspective.
Definition of youth: energy.
Great.
Vibrant, fun. Yeah.
Nice one. Your favorite travel destination?
I have to say Seychelles. I have to say
yes,
it.
yeah, interesting.
I have to say it.
Yes, yeah. You said Adam Bhai is your mama?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And funny enough that you raised the you mentioned the Sicily. I'll be traveling there, but
Inshallah.
only thing keeps me holding is this air travel.
No, you have to come. You have to
Yeah.
come, inshallah.
Okay, nice one. Your dream.
My dream is, that's a hard one. It's to be able to continue the work and to be able to do it on a bigger scale.
Nice one. Your vision, as far as your charity is concerned.
The vision for the charity is to provide even more women with dignity, with education and awareness, and possibly start to look at sustainable projects.
Nice one.
Yeah.
If you can change one thing for yourself, and if you can change one thing for the youth, what those changes would be?
Oh, that's a hard one. There's so many things.
Why not?
For the youth, it would be to give them more access to what's going on in the world, so that they can see that they could help people all over the world, even just by being here. They don't have to travel out there.
And if you have to change, as I said, one thing for yourself?
Have more time in the day. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't think of that right now.
Fair enough. And the last question. No, you're very sincere and honest, which is the whole point of rapid fire. Nadira, last question,
Yeah.
but least your message to our listeners, Beavers, because lots of people will be listening to you,
Yeah.
lots of people will be following you, particularly youths from local to global in more than 13 countries. So what your message would be for young people?
Don't underestimate the impact that you can have, even if it's very little.
Wow, very profound. Ladies and gentlemen, ભાઈઓ અને બહેનો, આ હતા નાદિરા તલાટી. થોડું ગુજરાતીમાં બોલશો?
No.
ના, આપણે
Sorry.
you can speak Gujarati.
No. I understand it, but my Gujarati is not great. So
I took
I'm
it-
I'm not even going to try.
Alright, તો હું ગુજરાતીમાં મેસેજ આપી
Yeah,
દઉં.
that's fine.
નાદિરા તલાટી એ બોલ્ટનના છે, બાય પ્રોફેશન એ ઓપ્ટોમેટ્રિસ્ટ, પરંતુ લિબિયા, સિરિયા, મોરોક્કોમાં બહુ જબરજસ્ત સરસ કામ કરે છે, અને ખાસ કરીને વિમેન ને સ્ત્રીઓની સાથે એ કામ કરે છે. હવે આવા યુવાનો જો આપણી પાસે હોય, આવી લીડરશિપ જો આપણી પાસે તૈયાર થાય, આવા સરસ વિચારો આપણે યુવાનો આપણી પાસે હોય, તેમનાથી ઇન્સ્પિરેશન મળે અને આવનારી પેઢી માટે આપણા સમાજનું પણ ભલું થાય, కుటుంબનું પણ ભલું થાય, આપણા દેશનું પણ ભલું થાય. સો I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Nadira Ben Talati, and I'm sure that your mom and dad and your entire family would be proud of you.
Oh, thank
What
you.
you do seriously, because to contribute something back into the society and working for the charity, working for the vulnerable people, and working for vulnerable women is really something which needs praise. And I'm sure that the society is feeling also proud of young people like you, because you are the future. The future leadership is in your hand. You are going to shape the future of your family. You are going to shape the future of your
Inshallah.
society, and you are going to shape the future of this nation and the world as well. So thank you for coming to
you.
Beavers. This is
Thank
Imtiaz
you.
Patel Vaidawala here. You've been watching Community Window, Charity Window, along with Nadirah Talati. We thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm sure that you will find this information not only interesting, not only informative, but very, very inspiring and motivating as well. Along with my producer, CEO, and founder Farooq Bhai, who is as usual working very hard behind the camera, and of course our cameraman, editor and studio manager Sadab Bhai. Keep watching Beavers, local to global, global to local. Thank you.